Hi everyone, here is my workroom for me for my Christmas Cutie outfit. I'm using a red velvet fabric which doesn't fray, so I don't need to seal or specially finish off the edges. I'm starting off with the pants, which is 8 pieces total, 4 front pieces, 4 back pieces. My first step is hand sewing the darts in the back pieces. I originally had the darts marked on my pants pattern, on my paper pattern, and traced them onto the fabric with a washable marker. The darts are making sure that I have a nice fit around the bum of my doll. I usually do my patterns myself, but since I don't have any professional knowledge or formal knowledge on making patterns, I can't really share them. Not that I think my designs are particularly popular, and I'm sure there are a large variety of patterns available online, or at least guides for making patterns. Also lining up the 2 pieces of the back of the pants to make sure my darts are in the right place. This is mainly because the velvet tends to shift a bit during cutting or otherwise. Next, I'm pinning and sewing the top and bottom pieces together of the fronts and the backs. And just to be safe, I add lots of extra pins to keep the fabric in place. Because of the texture of the velvet and similar fabrics, they tend to stand up and tend to shift. So I add extra pins around the area where I'm going to sew to make sure they stay in place. Throughout this video you can see me pinning the velvet multiple times, simply because they don't like to sit right. After that's done, I'm pinning the crotch pieces of the front and back pieces together, along with the extra pins. I'm doing it this way this time because I'm not planning to add any types of closures to the pants. During pinning, I align the seams of the bottom and top pieces to make sure everything lines up neatly. You can see that I'm having a bit difficulty lining up my back pieces. This goes back to the fabric shifting. I tend to cut my fabric pieces for the front, for the two back sides rather, at the same time. And so with the velvet, the fabric obviously shifted during cutting. But since it's a stretchy fabric, it doesn't matter that much, thankfully. But with stiffer fabrics, it can probably turn out pretty badly if you went through all that effort and it doesn't fit. A big thing to note is that dark red and other dark colors stain, so please pre-wash your fabrics. I completely forgot this as I was in a hurry and ended up staining everything, from my doll to the sewing machine, my fingers and nails, even the table. Luckily I was able to get everything cleaned up with a magic eraser and some soapy water. So for beginners or new doll owners, I'd suggest getting a magic eraser, as it can really help in cleaning your doll up. Just be super careful around face ups and body brushing. So I'm pinning the outer seams of the fronts and backs together. Because I'm going for open slits on the sides, I sew just a little past the knee instead of all the way down. I'm also adding extra pins everywhere to keep the fabric from shifting. After flipping the pants inside out, I checked the fit of the pants around the hips of my doll, just in case it needs to be taken in a little bit more. Then I fold over and the raw edges of the slits and sew them so that they are neat. It's not necessary to sew the raw edges of fabric like this, but I like the extra bit of neatness. Also, just a note, I'm sorry for the slight blurriness at the bottom of the screen sometimes, as I didn't realize during filming that my camera was a bit off. Also, during sewing on seams like this and some others, most others, I tie a knot with the threads so that they don't unravel. After turning it inside out, I pin the insides of the legs, making sure to match up all the other seams. After flipping it inside out again, I test it on a doll again and determine how far up I want the waist to be, and fold over and sew to make the waistband part nice and neat. At this point you can, if the pants was a normal pair of pants, you can just leave it like that or finish off the edges. And I test the strip of fake fur I want and see more or less how long it should be. And sorry for the mixed up seams from more or less now on, but I originally sewed all the velvet parts in one sitting before starting on the other things. But I'll finish off with the pants first. I cut the fake fur around 1 centimeter in width and the length of the bottom of my pant legs. I pinned the fur to the fabric with the fluffy sides against each other and sew only one end of the fluff. The fluff curls over naturally, so you don't need to sew both sides onto the velvet. the footage, but I took 5 pieces of equally sized red ribbons, seal and fold over the edges, then I pin and sew them to the pants to act as belt loops. And then the pants is done. The belt itself is just a piece of hard vinyl attached to a small homemade belt buckle. It's better to use thicker, sturdier fabric or vinyl for leather belts. And the pants is complete. Next I do the jacket. It consists of 5 pieces, 4 of them for the sleeves. I first pin them to the lower portion. Pin the lower portion of the sleeve to the upper portion. Then I pin the sleeve to the shoulders of the torso piece. Just a quick note, the smaller your seam allowance, the easier it is to add sleeves to the shoulders. After that, I pin up and sew the sleeves and the sides of the jacket. Then I turn it inside out and fit it on the doll. Once again, I cut the fur 1 centimeter in thickness and the length around the edge of the jacket and sleeves. When I cut the fabric, I try to make sure not to cut the fur and just the fabric itself. Once again, I pin the fur to the fabric with the fluffy sides facing each other and sew only one edge of the fluff. Since the fluff curves over naturally, I won't have to sew both sides to the velvet. Unfortunately, I forgot to film the pinning of the fluff to the sleeves. And then the jacket is done. And more mixing up of foam. The next part, I'm doing a shirt. I'm using a super shiny silver stretchy fabric. I have 4 pieces, 2 for the back, 1 for the front and 1 for the collar. I first pin the shoulders to the back shoulder pieces and sew. Also sew the sides of the collar after folding it, and then I pin the collar onto the body of the shirt. Since the fabric is stretchy, I can more easily turn the fabric around the corners and edges. Then I'll fold over and pin the armholes to make the fabric neat. But be careful doing small seams with stretch fabric. because it can usually end up pretty messed up. My machine especially likes to skip stitches on thin stitch fabrics. Then I test it on my doll. And then I sew up the sides. Since this fabric sheds quite a bit of glitter everywhere, and the fur also sheds, this entire project had quite a bit of cleanup to do. I put it on the doll and fold over the edges on the bottom. I put on the back first so that I can make a neat closure and sew them in place. I cut off the excess. I fold over the bottom and sew, making sure both sides are the same length. And please excuse the extra sound effects. I'm recording on a limited time and my cats are fighting. For this project I originally wanted to use hook and eye closures, but that didn't look the way I want, so instead I used Velcro. I usually hate using Velcro, but in this case it was the only thing I had with me that gave the look I wanted. Since my Velcro is a bit wide, I cut it in half and sealed the cut edges with fabric glue. Then I sewed it on. And voila! Next up, the shoes. Unfortunately, a lot of the later bits could not be properly filmed due to varying locations, but I'll try my best to explain. For each foot, I have 2 body pieces of vinyl and 2 of the lining, 1 tongue piece in both the vinyl and lining, and 1 toe piece of the vinyl. I pin the body pieces to the lining and sew. Then I turn them right side out and sew on the top to make a neat line and to keep it in place. I also do so with the tongue pieces and turn them right side out. I pin on the very edges to make sure I don't make extra holes in the vinyl. And I'm not sure if this is the case everywhere, but where I live, vinyl can also be used as a word for fake leather, which is this case I'm talking about now. Then I sew the tongue piece to the toe piece and pin together the backs of the body pieces. And with that I measure them around the foot so that I can figure out where to attach the toe pieces and sew them together. Accidentally sewed on the toe pieces and the tongue pieces on the wrong sides, so I have to resew them. After sewing the toe to the back pieces, I'll sew up the backs of the back pieces. The parts that wasn't filmed was me adding eyelets, making a cardboard inner sole and making a sole out of polymer clay. After making the soles, I put some sticky tack, something similar to blue tack. Sticky tack on the inner sole and stick it in the foot. Then I put the boot on the foot and glue the boot in place onto this inner sole. And after gluing it in place, I cut off the excess vinyl and fabric. Then I glue the clay sole onto the boot and then add some laces. I originally wanted to use ribbons as laces, but then I remembered I have a nice cord that works a lot better. Finally, the boot's done, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.